Welcome to SEO Conspiracy.com. And I have Christine, the cleaner. I will call you the cleaner from now on.
There are other people that do it too. Just so. Hi.
Yes, but I don't know anybody better than you at doing this
Oh,
forensic technical SEO thing.
there are a few that are the same level or even a little better. But Alan Byweiss and Jenny Hazeless, I can never say her last name. She's gonna kill me. And and Barry Adams is pretty good too.
Yeah, but they're not here.
I know exactly, but I just feel I have to be fair that way. I appreciate the love though.
You are very experienced. Well,
Yeah.
It makes me feel good because if I say you are very experienced, it means I'm very experienced because we started around the same time, like
Yeah.
2003 to 2004.
Yeah.
But you build websites back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I graduated with a degree in sociology and art. So I was a barista for a year after I got out of college because what do you do with a degree in sociology and art? And one day I saw an ad in the paper for a thing called a web designer and an HTML coder. And what's that? I don't know. Sounds good. And I went to the library back when you just didn't think everything online. And I found this HTML book. I'm like, I could do that because I did WordPerfect code and it's not that different. And
Okay.
so I got them to hire me because I was like, well, you can't train someone to design, but you can train me to code. And so they hired me, and they were really, I was a mom, it was a husband and wife couple, and they were really difficult and really hard. And she once had me spend 8 hours trying to get the pixels out of green. When back then you only had 256 colors and you couldn't get the pixels out of green. And I kept telling her that, but she kept making me try. But it was a really, really good learning experience. And the next year I left and I went to a company called Judd's Online. DD, not J. Most people think it's Jugs, but it's Judd's.
Jug.
Judd's.
Jug.
Judd's. And I got to, there's a European site that I started on called Ula Popkin. They're still around. I used to do their quarterly design and recode. And then Reba McEntire, Martha Stewart, they were a publisher who started doing websites. So I got to work on those. And back then, if my design won out of the group of designers, I also cut it up, hand coded the front end, and then took the back end code and put it into the site, QA'd it, and launched it because we didn't have project managers back then. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how sites work, and I worked in development groups for most of my career before I went out on my own.
But today we will talk about partying, after hours. What happens when SEOs go wild?
To protect the innocent or the guilty, I can't say everything, but I can definitely tell you something.
Well, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Anyway.
Most of this didn't happen in Vegas, though.
No, it's a saying, it's like...
I know. Yeah.
But because she's from Las Vegas, in case you were wondering. So you were telling me about Search Bash? What is that?
So back in the day, I don't know if everyone knows about Webmaster Radio overseas, but it's pretty popular here. And Darren Babin and Brandy, his wife, would, with Jim Hedger from Webmaster Radio, who does Webcology still to this day. He's OG, awesome. Anyway, they would put together these parties at the conferences, and they were epic. They had one in Vegas where they had Cirque du Soleil come and perform at the nightclub that they rented for the night. And then one in California at SES where it was Alice in Wonderland, and everyone was decked out like Alice in Wonderland characters. Even the women were all body painted. I mean, strategic parks were covered, but they're all body painted to look like characters. And they were just some of the best parties. Like if you weren't in Search back then, you missed out. And then of course there was the Google dance, but that's something else to talk about. But Search Bash was amazing. They were so much fun.
The parties that I missed that supposedly were crazy were the summer jam or some summer white ball from SEMrush in Moscow.
Oh, I didn't go there.
And, I was invited. I never went, and I regret it because I heard that now it's a lot calmer. It's not as crazy. But it feels like SEOs, when they see each other, they unleash. I don't know why they go crazy. Have you
Well,
noticed that?
I think we're social geeks.
Mm,
We're not like geeks. Like we're not the web developer guy in the back room who doesn't want to talk to anybody. And
mm.
so we're social, but most people are super smart, come from all different backgrounds, and we don't. Most people don't know what we do or understand it. So at least where I live, if I tell people I do SEO, they're like, and if I start to explain it, they try to listen, but you can see they get very
Uh-uh.
bored very quickly.
True.
So I think when we get together, it's just such a dynamic group of like really intelligent people who are social, who have these varying backgrounds that have nothing to do with computers or search. Like people come from so many different areas.
Mhm.
So I think I think we know how to have a good time. And we're like a family all over that knows each other all over the world. So,
Let me tell you about the craziest SEO event I know. South of France, two clients actually, two guys, clients of mine in the adult business, organized an event that was a bridge between the mainstream and the adult world. Because of course you had very crazy parties in the adult business world,
yeah,
but
I imagine.
that's out of boundaries. We can't talk about this in public, but I can talk about what happened during those parties because it was open bar, but starting at 6 p.m., not before. So free liquor, free booze. And they had this whole show with girls dancing, with huge, like giant football, with games, swimming pool. I mean, lots of fun. And me and my friend were doing a talk during the day. And 6 o'clock, open bar hits. So, of course, you are wasted. And at midnight, they will they were pulling us out to from where one of the last time I remember I was in the jacuzzi. Okay, they pulled me out of the jacuzzi and say, "Okay, midnight, you got to go." So we had to go back on stage, drunk, everybody drunk in the in the crowd too, and they gave us a challenge. So, for instance, one year we had to track down who was behind a website that was ranking really high on some really key, like very high volume keywords, and who was that mystery website owner. And it turned out that it was a how do you call that? Affiliate,
Affiliate, yeah.
like the
Yeah.
agency, the company that does all the affiliates links, and it was them. So it was ethically wrong because they were playing against their clients. And the year after, we had to figure out why this website was ranking first on sex, on the keyword sex. And it was obviously an expired domain, but no content on it. It was just pop up after pop up after pop up. Um, couldn't really figure that one out. The first one we saw it back then. There was a tool called Netcomber. I don't know if you remember that.
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I used
It
it.
was a former employee of Google, the anti-spam team, and he pulled out this tool to track down networks. And I found out the footprint.
Oh,
I found out the footprint of a developer who was in the room. And I was, oh, here you go. And the guy's like, no, that's not me. I don't know. You are all over the place. What do you, what do you mean it's not you? And those parties were crazy because alcohol, music, girls, uh, feels like Las Vegas, a little bit.
a little bit. It's like I always tell people, it's sort of like college. You go to class all day, and then at 6 o'clock, they start feeding you alcohol. You never have a chance to get a real dinner, if you get any dinner at
True.
all. And then by like midnight, you're at a bar somewhere. And there's always a center bar at all the United States conferences that
Mhm.
everyone goes to. And then you drink until like 4 in the morning. But way back in the day, I won't say the name because he's a very famous brother, but but one of the guys always had like a party in the suite. He'd always have a suite. He was related to conferences. And I remember one time we were hiding in a closet in the suite because they were knocking on the door because we were too loud. And we're all like got 40 of us in like this little room when he's taking a picture of us. It was so funny. And then one of the most fun times I had, well, I did SA Oktoberfest, but I can't really talk about those because that's not a thing to be talked about. But they're fun, and they get a bad reputation sometimes for being too partyish, but we just had a good time like you would at any other conference. But the Iceland conference, RAMC.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when you were a speaker there, and I'm not sure if he still does it, but I think he does. They pay for you to be there. They pay for you to come stay a couple extra days. They take you out. So you're in Iceland, and I don't know if you know Ann Kennedy. She's not really around much anymore, but back in the day, she's old school OG. Like, you say her name, and everyone's like, oh, she's amazing. She's really cool. But we go to this Iceland like nightclub, but it's like basically a house converted into a nightclub. And suddenly at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, everyone comes out. Like before that, it's empty. And it's just like everyone, and they all know each other, right? Because it's such a small country. And we're sitting there like with Ann Kennedy, with people dancing until like 3 in the morning in Iceland. So it was a lot of fun. But all the parties, and sorry, just one last one is the Google dance back in the day. Now they just kind of do like a get together. But I was like one of my first conferences when I went to my first Google dance, and I met all sorts of people I still know today. And you go there, and they've spent $1 million on this party, and it's just like you're at Google, and
Yeah.
you're new to search, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. And they had a karaoke tent, and they had food inside, and it was just a lot of fun. It was just such a good time. They took us on the buses out there and back, and we had a really good time. Those were really good days.
I can talk about the worst conference. Actually, it was a roundtable. Because there's the after party, but there's also the before party. Okay, you before the event you go out, and sometimes it does go a lot later than it should. And it was a 9:30 roundtable, and I was the one. I was the guy who was supposed to make everybody talk. How do you call that? The host, I guess, of the roundtable. Yeah, the
Yeah.
host. I slept. I don't know even if I slept. If you can call that sleep. Maybe 20 minutes. Okay, went to bed at 8 to wake up at 8:30.
Yeah.
And when you smell yourself, you can tell that you smell alcohol. Okay, like that your breath is just. That was bad. That was really bad.
But my very first SEO conference was SES San Jose. Well, I went to a PubCon, but that was like back then. PubCon was like play this card game Werewolf in a back room and it's not like a poker game. I mean, it's like a kid's card game with like Matt Cutts and Danny Sullivan and everybody and Google engineers. So it's not like a conference. Now it's like a big conference. But I went to SES San Jose. And I had this great room with this like feather bed, and I went to the thing, and I'm not a heavy drinker. Like 3 drinks is usually about my limit, and I didn't know how conferences really work yet. And I go to like the newbie like meeting after the sessions, and they give us wine, and then I go to a next thing, and they give us alcohol, and then I go to the next thing, and it's a bunch of OG SEOs who are like just buying for everybody. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, do I have to go to this conference today? And then I'm like, okay, my boss is paying for it. I have to go. That was painful. I knew better after that to like watch how much alcohol is being given, but it's all free and you're new and you didn't eat because no one made time for dinner. So
and peer pressure. Hey, another one.
Yeah, and everyone's having such a good time, so you sort of be part of the fun.
But what is really cool is that everybody goes crazy. Well, it was before smartphones, okay? Since nowadays you always have someone with this device like filming, and so nobody
Or you
goes
have people
overboard
doing
anymore.
this. No phones. No phones.
But back in days, people were really going crazy. But still, when sometimes you have this guy who comes in, usually a new one, and who can handle alcohol and behaves like goes overboard, especially towards girls, and everybody's like, okay, dude, that's not cool. Okay, that's
Yeah,
just not. So even if in the craziness, you always have that limit of not going overboard. Every time, I always saw this. This auto self-regulation of not going overboard.
or if someone did, we always watched out for each other. So like, there's
Exactly.
there's a couple of the guys that I'd be like, okay, when do you want me to pull you out? Because I'm always the soberish one. Like, when do you want me to pull you out? When should you stop drinking? They would tell me, and I'm like, okay. And I go up to them, I go, you need to go home now. They're like, no. I'm like, no, you really need to go home now. They're like, oh, are you pulling me out? I'm like, yes. But we watch out with each other. And although there's some guys, who have reputations for being handsy or a little overly flirty, for the most part, the guys in the industry are always very protective and making sure that you got home okay and that you were taken care of.
Exactly. But and these guys, usually the ones you're talking about, they are put back. They have two choices: either they leave, I mean, they don't come back, or they change.
Yes, yeah, very true.
They don't drink or whatever they have to do to behave, because it's really strange how this industry regulates itself as far as
It
people just go
does.
crazy. You have
It
a lot
does.
of crazy people. Everybody's crazy, but crazy
In a
enough,
good way. Interesting. No, but there is a lot of truth to that. I hear a lot of stuff on TV about like the Silicon Valley, the Silicon Valley tech bros and how women are treated and stuff. But in this industry, I don't have anything negative to say about 99% of the men. I mean, they opened doors for me and they didn't even tell me. I would just get
Exactly.
tickets to a conference or I'd get invited to write or they would stick up for me if somebody was harassing me, if I was a bar, if there was some like stranger, not part of us, who's like hitting on me, or if it was one of ours. I haven't had too much of
Mm.
that problem, but I have other women where I know the guy's like, hey, I got to go save her because I know that guy's handsy
Mm.
and I need to get her away. And so the guys are really very good. I feel very lucky to be in an industry where, for the most part, the men respect women as just equals and try to make sure that they are, protected and seen. So
I'm not saying nothing ever happened. It's
no, no,
impossible.
no. I'm not saying
Don't
that either at all. At all.
but compared to other industry, I don't know if
No.
you heard everything that's happening around the gaming world, like Twitch and the esports and the streamers.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's
It's
really bad.
bad. It's really bad. Yeah. I've been very fortunate. Like, I remember one time tweeting uh, uh, that I wanted to go to SES. They were like, hey, we're having a Twitter contest, tweet us. You want to go to SES? And Matt McGowan at the time ran SES, and he's like, or he's a big part of it. There's a group that ran it. But I was like, hey, I would love to get tickets. And he's like, he messages me privately. He's like, hey, you're the kind of person we want at the conference. I'll just send you tickets for free. You don't have to win them. And I'm like, you know who I am? Like, how does he know who I am? But, he sent me free tickets. And then soon after that, I was writing for Search Engine Watch. And I know that was the people like Matt and that group that gave me that opportunity, but they never told me. They didn't take credit for it. But I always felt like I said, there's some men, there's always some bad people in every group. I'm not going to say no woman's ever been harassed. That's not true or had issues. But for the most part, as far as you can expect from any group of people, I feel like the men in the industry have been very supportive.
At least you don't hear story after story after story like in the game industry right now. It's
Oh,
every week you have a new crazy bad story. I mean,
yeah.
uh,
And like you said, we self-regulate. So those
mhm.
guys kind of find themselves on the outs pretty quick. So.
Yeah, but to end up on a positive note, the party, I feel like now the only really cool parties I went to were small circle, meaning it wasn't broad, it wasn't mainstream, it was very limited. I wouldn't call it VIP, but I feel like people need to know who is around, to feel comfortable, and not too many outsiders, and then it could go a little bit crazy. Especially, I live 2.5 hours away from Barcelona, which is the city of partying. Okay, if there's one city left standing in Europe, it's Barcelona. And I remember the European Search Awards. It was 2013, I believe. Oh my God. Because if there's it's like Vegas, you can party all day all night not sleeping, and Barcelona is a little bit like that. You can always find something to do. so
Yeah, that's
so
like
it
Vegas
was
too,
three
yeah.
days straight 3 days straight partying for the European Search Awards back then. And I guess the place also is very important, like you said, Oktoberfest, or any place that kind of calls partying. I guess Las Vegas calls partying.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But in Paris, they do this event in the north of Paris, in front of the big stadium, and the neighborhood is just, what I mean. It's near a football stadium. Football is us, okay? In Europe, your football needs to change its name. It's not football. So whatever you call soccer, okay?
Soccer, yeah. I gave both of my niece to soccer.
But do you know where does that come from? The name American football. It's about the size of the ball, which is 1 foot. How stupid is that? Come on.
I did not know that's the name it came
Yeah,
from.
yeah. That's because of the size of the ball. I mean, come on. We have soccer. We have football. You have.
I love soccer. I was a center mid for many years till I did in my second knee, and then I gave it up.
Oh, yeah. I played rugby, so I'm more.
Oh, yeah, that's hardcore.
That's like American football without pads and helmet.
Yes, yes. I used to be a rugby team in college, and they would tape their ears down
Uh-uh.
so that they wouldn't get their ears ripped off. Yeah,
Uh-uh.
that's
20
hardcore.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, partying, yes. But did you see a change now with I guess the mood and the general, maybe it was too much left and now it's too much right. Everybody's proper, or is it still? I see people getting drunk, but no, in the last like 5 6 years. Well, I don't go to events that much. I don't see any wild. I don't see any wild events anyway, like they used to, with a lot of underdressed women and such.
No, that's not. But no, let's see. Well, I think one, people are getting older, they have kids, they're less likely to want to just go to the club and like drink until dawn and go to a conference like an hour later. But when conferences get together, we still sit around
Mm.
the main bar area and party. And we almost got kicked out of the hotel bar in Texas last year because we were all singing at the piano
Oh.
till like 3 in the morning. They're like, there are people sleeping. We're like, we're sorry. So
Well,
we still have a lot of fun. It's just a little less in like nightclubby kind of fun, and but there's still a lot of good nights going out with people. And I've known a lot of these people like a decade or more.
true.
Like some of my best friends are in the industry, even though I only see them once or twice a year. And this year, not at all. So
It's right what you say. With age, nightclubs, loud music, it's hard, huh?
yeah, it's fun sometimes, but it's
Mm.
not something you want to go do all the time anymore.
Do you also think that the Corona pub is a good example that SEOs, even with the social distancing thing, they still get drunk together. And in France also we do it, but that's pretty cool. That
We have
we
a bunch
have,
of Zoom hangouts. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, I haven't gotten drunk, but mostly people have a few drinks in there.
yeah.
So
But you have edibles, so that's
I do live in that state.
yeah, it's legal over there. Okay, we are going. Oh, good topic next time.
What's that?
We are going to talk about your first job. How did you figure out what and how to feed the beast? What clicked? what happened? How did you find out the game of SEO and how to beat Google? Thank you, Christine.